As law enforcement agencies at every level scale up recruiting, legacy background tools can't track officer movement or surface red flags early enough to matter. Joining me to explain why those gaps show up first in hiring and what a modern shared digital platform would let agencies see that they can't today is the founder of Guardian Alliance Technologies, Justin Biedinger. Justin, thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Hi, Terry. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Our federal law enforcement agencies right now are in the midst of what we might call a hiring frenzy, trying to add tens of thousands of positions. You specialize in law enforcement background checks. So what is most challenging about our current background investigation system when agencies are facing these massive hiring efforts?
Well, as these efforts are actually across the whole nation as far as local, federal, and state, the biggest crisis that we face is just doing things the same way that we've done them. We haven't updated the space. We haven't made it more efficient. So it's very outdated, and they're using a lot of paperwork, binders to house these background investigations as far as all the information. Because we collect a lot of information during a law enforcement background. We're collecting references, neighbors, a ton of information. One binder could hold 300 to 350 pages of information. So we just haven't made it more efficient, and we haven't brought it into the digital world yet, federal, state, and local.
What would an updated system even look like?
An updated system would just be way more efficient as far as right now, a lot of agencies are sending out mailers as far as licking stamps and envelopes and sending out to reference. Well, in a digital system, that system automatically sends stuff out. The applicant fills out their personal history questionnaire, and a lot of our information is derived from that. So the applicant's telling us where to send this stuff. But right now we're doing it with mail, phone calls, where AI, digital systems just improve the efficiency, and it takes the bias out of a background investigation.
Talk to me more about how that anti-bias provisions would work.
As far as just people, maybe profiling an applicant, or he won't be good. This is fine. This happened, but this is okay. Well, the AI and the digital world, we don't care how somebody answers or don't answer. It's the same, and that's what we're here at Guardian Alliance Technologies. That's what I was always trying to do, was provide efficiency, but also make everything kind of the same as far as a background investigation. Because right now it's so different across everywhere.
When you think about law enforcement investigations, I would imagine, like in some other special fields, the people who are doing the screening feel like they bring a lot of expertise to this process. How do you balance that I want to be involved, I need to see them face-to-face approach with the efficiencies that you'd argue for in a more digital format?
100%. The digital world is not going to replace the background investigator, because you're absolutely right. The face-to-face is so important to get to know that person. The inefficiency is just a lot of the paperwork, a lot of the emailing, a lot of the talk, the interviews, as far as we do interviews with these applicants, where AI can help digest those interviews and bring out stuff. We also have red flags in our system, where if an applicant answers a question that he did drugs 6 months ago, it'll red flag it and automatically DQ him or disqualify an applicant, where it's just basically you're bringing an applicant to an investigator that's ready to go and that's been kind of vetted by our system or by a digital system. And it just improves the time and efficiency for a background investigator. But you're right. We'll never take away the background investigator.
You just mentioned red flags. When you're in a predominantly paper-based process, what kinds of past misconduct or employment history issues do people commonly miss?
Well, we've seen a lot of things missed, and we've helped agencies all over this. We're in 49 states with our software, so we've helped agencies all over the nation improve this process. But we've had an officer drive on a suspended license. We've missed social media screening now that we do social media because of the new tech out there. So we do a social media screen where agencies weren't doing that before. So we've missed stuff on social media that could be very damaging to an agency if found.
What kind of risks does an agency face, or might an agency face, if they do miss some of these red flags? Does it turn into litigation or decertification or something?
Absolutely, it could turn into litigation. We've seen that in the past, and for a very low cost of using a digital and keeping everything organized, it's very cost effective to do it digitally and to help the investigator because, yeah, lawsuits, decertification, firings, lack of trust in the community now, which is, I think, one of the biggest things. I think we improve the trust in the community when we're using it digital. We're doing everything we can to make sure we have the best officers on the street. And that's really my goal, to put the best officers on the street.
I'm speaking with Justin Biedinger. He's the founder of Guardian Alliance Technologies. So, Justin, what is keeping law enforcement agencies from adopting a more modern approach to these kinds of background checks?
Well, to be truthful, Terry, just like everything, it's just the answers we get sometimes is just that's the way we've always done it. So it's just a lack of knowledge, a lack of which we're out there trying to improve. But some people in the government world, they get comfortable, and change is sometimes a bad thing in that world. So we're out there doing campaigns and make sure we can get everybody to adopt it that we can.
One of the issues that you've raised is the loss of information when law enforcement officers transfer, maybe between other branches or other agencies or other localities. Talk to me about what that risk entails and how a more digital approach might help solve that.
Yeah, absolutely. We call that the wandering officer. Like, they could get fired, they could quit in lieu of and go somewhere else. And our digital system tracks those officers. They track an applicant. So if an applicant answers a question somewhere, gets disqualified and goes somewhere else, we're able to track that. Where right now we're in a paper world, we can't track that. Maybe an email, maybe though. So the tracking is way better. We're a part of the NDI, which is the National Decertification Index, which hopefully all states will get on board. And that is basically an index, a database that you can check to see if a officer has been decertified. So you can check those, because as we've seen in the past, we've seen officers go somewhere else, get in trouble, and should have never been hired in the first place. So we're trying to do a better job of tracking and following that officer and make sure that he's good.
Any concerns inside that digital tracking process about individual privacy and privacy violations?
No, because they do a file review and they'll do all that anyway. So a lot of these law enforcement officers, as far as what we do, is they have a waiver that everybody signs so that people can look at their employment, their past, because being a law enforcement officer is a little different than getting a job at Home Depot or somewhere else. So you do sign away a lot of privacy rights with waivers and stuff for these applicants.
As we're thinking about background checks, I want to ask how background checks relate to security clearances. The federal government has been trying to reform the security clearance process for decades. Is there a path where these two slightly different approaches kind of come together and reinforce each other instead of being separate silos?
Yeah, I think there could be, but we're kind of looking into that too, because we haven't really broken into that federal level yet. As far as they use a system called EQIP, and they're married to that system, as you probably know, right? That EQIP system. We've been trying to break into that a little bit because I think we could do a better job there too, with security clearances and the background investigation process. And that takes a long time too. I mean, the federal government background investigation for a security clearance, that's a long process too. So I think we could help there, yeah.
Sometimes when agencies are so focused on hiring, it becomes an HR issue, and it's about meeting numerical objectives and less about thinking about the risks of doing some things wrong, or as you've talked about, missing some key information. How do you want the leaders of these organizations to connect those dots?
Yeah, I think that's the fear. That's what keeps me up at night, as far as lowering standards to meet ever pressuring type situation. And we've seen that. We've seen it across the country. We've lowered, California is, marijuana is okay. They've lowered that standard, and cops can smoke the day before they come into a test now if they want to be a cop. And I just think, I don't know, I believe that's a dangerous situation right there, because I think police officers should be held to a way higher standard than, you're taking people's, freedom and you're way higher standard than the normal citizen.
And for these federal agencies that are under such pressure right now to hire fast, what caution or what piece of advice would you want to make sure they take on board?
Just that, as far as the lowering the standards, just make sure we can hire fast, but we still need to do a good job in vetting. And I think we do, they try to do the best they can, but I just think with the digital world and the AI now, we can do a lot better job without, like you said, taking that human element out of it, the background investigator. Like my software was never meant to replace the background investigator. It was just it's another tool in the arsenal to try to make sure we get great cops on the street.
I've been speaking with Justin Biedinger. He's the founder of Guardian Alliance Technologies. I really appreciate you sort of raising our awareness of this challenge.
Yeah, absolutely, Terry. Thank you very much.
We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.